Welcome.
Hi.
How are you guys? Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Testing.
Okay, so we can hear each other.
Which is good.
No, as confirmed against us shall prosper.
Oh, amen. Don't we wish that to be the case? Yeah, but at least I've checked my schedules. They have already happened for most part of the day, so they will be coming back later.
Okay then, no problem. Let's just wait then.
Thank you.
For the others to come. Welcome to our guests. We're just going to wait up until it's 5 o'clock on the dot and then we start.
Ooh. Ai, ai.
Afternoon party. I'm already here.
Oh, afternoon. Afternoon, sir.
Ma'am, can I ask, can you see me?
Okay, guys, welcome. It's 6 o'clock. We promised the webinar will start at 6. So those who are still coming, they will join us. Welcome to our very first webinar. Things I wish I knew before I started working. This is very interesting. Okay, all those who don't know, I was in practice before as an accountant. Now what is it? What is that name they use, that fancy English name they use? I transitioned into teaching and lecturing. And this is where I saw interesting things. I'm at 2000, they call it flames. I was like, okay, these kids, I'm not sure they are ready for the next phase. I'm really not sure they're ready for the next phase. And it made me want to actually impart on them at a very young age, because we learned by trial and error. I mean, many of us didn't even know the. So someone says, I'm sounding very far. Am I much closer now, Dee? Dee, can you hear me clearer? Oh, much better. She says yes. So some of the things we learned by trial and error. Incorporate some we had to ban, go through disciplinary hearings. Some we just had to learn by careers not growing at all, like stunted careers. It is very interesting. So today I have a guest, a lovely guest. Yes, she's my sister. Go on, be jealous. she's my sister, like literally. Okay, we just don't use the same surname because I was once married to other people and I came back. Okay, I must just highlight that part. Okay, so she is Akhona Sankqela. So I call her Ak. Many a times I call her Nom D. Okay, because not that way in essence. And the reason I called her is because her career grew so fast. It grew so fast, and she networked across industries, and she didn't shortchange herself. Things were just happening for Miguel. I'm like, hey, bo, guys. Which medicine is she using? Is there any black artificial intelligence that she, sometimes these things, if we don't understand them, we must just articulate them to what has been there before. Maybe there's black AI involved, okay? So we've got Akhona Sankqela. She is the partner, the founding partner at Kuyasa. Accounting is based in Port Elizabeth. So before that, Akhona had a life in Joburg, guys, before Gabecha took our babe. Akhona had a life. She was an FD before that at Vivlia Book Publishers. Started from the bottom, like Drake said it, and she was there. Like she was just attracting enemies in the career, like growing. The next thing, oh yes, okay, okay. D is just putting in some comments there. I thought it had to do with the volume and the sound. So she was growing. The next thing, she's tired. I mean, within 10 years of practice, she's tired. She wants to grow and explore. She doesn't want to be holding on to glorified executive seats. Then she does something crazy. She starts an accounting practice. I'm like, Miguel. Hey, but Miguel has made it work, hey? She has made it work. She has put the zest, the pizzazz, the glam, the involvement in accounting. Like, she makes our profession look sexy. She makes her profession look so reachable. She makes her profession look so glamorous. Like, I'm so proud that I have served in an era where someone young as her can hold you accountable to performance standards. That's where if I measure myself with Akhona, I'm like, lady, stick to academics. She's got the corporate game. Stick to academics, stick to your books, and all, she's got the game. So she is a motivational speaker. I don't think she's a motivational speaker just to make you feel good by having like, or maybe have goosebumps and all that. She will just speak the truth you're not ready to hear. I don't know how they coined it to be motivational speaking. I just listen to her and I see that she's telling me the truth I don't want to hear. So she goes to interesting spaces, government, SMEs, private sector. I mean, Gabacha knows this lady. Eastern Cape stole from us, Gauteng people, but we're okay. We're not fighting with you, Eastern Cape. Anyways, what is it that you do? She's a mother to a beautiful young lady that looks exactly like her. I hope she's not as opinionated like her, but she looks exactly like the mother. And if there is any eligible bachelor out there, you already know my sister is been in this game, but the brothers, you know. Over to you, ma'am. Welcome.
How does one even step in after that intro? More than anything, I think I'm ready to take my bag and just go home. Thank you, Pat. And you forgot to tell them I'm older than you, by the way.
By months. By months.
No. We'll argue about that later. But thank you to you, and a very good evening to everyone who has managed to join us. I think it's very important that we acknowledge their time. I mean, we live in most hectic times where if you're going to show up for something, it means you aren't showing up for something else. So the fact that we have people here that have logged in and are here to listen to whatever we're going to be sharing today, it's something that we can't just take for granted. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to you, little sis. I have to make that known that you are younger than me. And by the way, whoever you were speaking about earlier, I do not know that person, especially because maybe before we get swallowed by the topic of the day and all of that, I have to say that I look up to you so much. You know, when it comes to the career, I always take you back to how you said in your 21st birthday that we're going to go up to Joburg and we will make things work. I've seen you doing just that. I've seen you doing just that. So,
Amanda?
Absolutely.
Amen. Okay, let's just quickly dive into the topic. What is networking? And the reason I'm raising this is because many young people think the degree is enough. Many young people think a particular surname is enough. Many young people think, I don't need to move from Bloemfontein to Joburg. It's enough. I will make it work. And then you hear many years later, who is in your network is like, what? So really, what is networking?
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for that question. And I was thinking earlier that as much as there is a book definition of what network is, which I'm going to be able to give later, but more than anything, this is one of those skills that I believe our education system should seek to include earlier on. You know, these days you meet people, they tell you I'm an engineer, and you think, so if you're an engineer, do you get to sit down and draft your budget? And they're like, no, but I'm not a finance person. I never did finances. So just like how it is important for everyone, regardless of the field, that they be taken to a certain knowledge or understanding of their finances, the same goes with networking. Okay. I was reading a certain statistic a little bit earlier, and it actually reported that in 2005, each and every job that was received, and by job I mean now, you know, the job, the position that you get to apply for, and similar to someone who's in business, it said 50% of every job was received through connections.
Oh.
Right?
Oh, wow.
So while the rest of us were waiting there thinking that eventually Pnet, I don't know where they advertise these days, you know, Pnet is going to advertise those jobs. Someone was actually getting referred through connections. So going back to your question, what is networking? What do we mean by networking? I mean, such word that I know most people rather choose to ignore and stay away from it, because let's be honest, it does get the rest of us. So how your normal definition of networking, more than anything, it refers to the process of interacting with others. So you can get to exchange information and get into each other's and tap into each other's resources. That is how the book defines networking. But my own definition will be meaningful connection with each other,
Oh,
right?
meaningful.
And I'll tell you why that is important. Is if you go to networking spaces, I've been to some of those spaces, and sometimes you find that everyone is in their mind are thinking that, okay, if she's an accountant and I get to connect to her, then maybe she can do my books for free, right?
Oh,
That is not how networking ought to be. It has to be meaningful. It has to say she's an accountant. I know 1-2 people who can utilize their service, who can utilize her service, while I also need to tap into her service. So it ought to be meaningful, and it ought to be a matter of what can I give her and what can I get from that.
Oh, okay. So now it's not a matter of knowing umzala kamzala and umzala who can do things for free.
No, absolutely not. So let's get to know Umzala. And I love the fact that you mentioned Umzala, because the reason most of us read the mention of the word network is because we think, well, we're not Mr. Ramaphosa, right?
Yes,
So we don't have all those connections. And as such, we rather decide, hi, forget about networking. We will study, we will fill in that CV, we will go to PNET and put in our CV, and that is how we will actually get what we need. And there's absolutely nothing wrong about that. But while you were doing that, someone recognized that, by the way, umzala wakhe, this is what they get to do, right?
Oh.
And because they got to, and because they know that, them, instead of sending their CV to PNET, they send it with Umzala, right? Who
Yes.
happen to know the HR. So they
Okay.
So it happens like that. I'm going to give you just one. In fact, let me give you two. Let me give you two. The time is yours. So you'll tell me if time is not going for us. So, for instance, when I passed my degree, this was many years ago, and I want to assume some of the people here are probably still doing grade art by then, but regardless. So when I, just after graduation, me and my friend who were doing the same degree, we had become friends, decide now it's time to find employment, right? We out of school, we don't have so much money, so we make a decision that, look, we need to buy Sunday Times, the newspaper. And it's a very expensive newspaper. It was expensive then, it's still expensive today. So what we do is, okay, friend, you buy this week, I buy next week, right? So that is what we stay in different places, by the way. So whatever posts that are relevant to our field, when you get those posts, you send the email addresses to the other person, right? And that is how I got my first job. It was SMS that a friend had said to say, okay, I see there are these firms in Joburg that are looking for articles, do send. So we both sent, they took me, didn't take care. A story for another day.
Story for another day. So is it safe to assume then that networks help? It's that thing of what are you bringing to the table, the value proposition in our lives, and knowing the worth that Mzala is bringing into the table, or who is Mzala sitting in his or her table that can benefit my table. So it's not a selfish thing at all. It's just knowing how we can leverage from each other's energies.
I love the word leverage, because that's exactly it should, that's what it should be about. It should be a matter of saying, if I know that my neighbor works at the bank, and rather than me going and queuing at the bank for 2 to 3 hours, how about I rather ask, hey neighbor, you already work there, can you please do this for me? And following day, it has to be about exchanging. Remember how I said it shouldn't be a matter of what can I get from Mzala, but what are you willing to also put in the table, because Mzala has needs as well. We all have needs, and more than anything, when you reach out to people, I don't know about you, Pat, but I'll tell you this about me. I close up very quickly when people approach me because they want something. So the moment I see that every time they call me, this is what they want. I actually recently did this. There's a lady, we are in the same circles. She's running her business, I run my business. And she normally calls for referrals. Akhona, do you know someone who does this? And I quickly shared that number. But what I realize is when I make that call to her, Now it changes.
There's no reciprocation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are people
Okay.
like that who just want to take and leave the table.
Okay, so now the entrepreneurs are in the SME space, and you always said to me that, Pat, good luck with the SMEs. Those people don't see themselves growing out of that corner. They embrace that corner. And sometimes I think they just don't know what is out there, that there's services for them, that people are willing to do services for them pro bono, but they're just in the network of, I'm a publisher, I just published one book, and we must all sing Kumbaya. But if there is a book fest somewhere, they can't go. They don't have money. If there is some artist doing some festival, they don't want to even be the opening act through the page. Be there, be visible. What can SMEs get from networking? Because there's so much mentorship from the banks, free mentorship from the banks, from government agencies, from skills specialists like you guys who do it for certain drives, BEE points, maximum exposure, marketing, and partnerships. But these SME people, they just don't want to go out there and use this powerful resource which is called networking. They're just so consumed with their corner. What advice do you have for those people? They frustrate me.
No, I am frustrated on your behalf as well about them. So when it comes to business, or not in actual fact, not just business, in life as a whole, it has become very impossible to succeed without connections. That's just a fact.
Thank you.
I always make an example of Coca-Cola. I mean, we all know Coca-Cola. We grew up with Coca-Cola. But whenever you show up somewhere, you're going to see them, either they are in the billboard somewhere, or they handing out a flyer and all of that. Now, imagine you're a small business. You have this very big vision board, by the way, in your room that says, in 5 years' time, it doesn't include you getting out there and getting known. You already have it wrong. You already have it wrong. So you mentioned, for instance, that there are platforms where you just have to show up. You don't have to use your money, which we don't have either way. So I always want to give these practical examples, Pat, and especially because this is something that I'm either going through now or something that I've recently gone through. So when I came to business, remember, I've always been an accountant, right? Yes. So I knew how to be an accountant. I had absolutely no problem with that. But what I didn't know was how to be a business person. Okay. So how did I then learn how to be a business person? It was for me to get out there and find enterprise development platforms. And you'll be surprised how many are there. They are for free, and they are either funded by government or by an international company or by this or by that person. Your part is just to show up. And the advantage there is there are all these other entrepreneurs that are in the space. So by the time you walk out, you already know at least a plus minus 20 entrepreneurs, right? And not only that, they're going to be organizing this and that. And most of this is available for free. So I don't know who's really still staying in their corner. So one of the most recommended books when it comes to networking is one by Keith. It's Keith Ferrazzi. The title of the book is Never Eat Alone, right? Oh, and more than anything, I mean, you don't even have to ask what the book is about. Never eat alone. Okay. So it refers mostly if you find yourself in a social space. It could be at school, it could be in a work event. Don't you ever eat alone. Take that plate, take that sandwich, and go meet someone. Okay. Okay. Or go meet someone. Okay. So you're saying that if you're isolated as an entrepreneur,
you're just missing out on the value chain, bro. Because after these engagements that are hosted somewhere, there is something that's going to happen next, and they might be needing your services. For crying out loud, there is something you can bring, and that can be used in the value chain. And also meeting 20 people, you're an accountant, telling them accounting services. You know, all those businesses need accounting services. Maybe you can get 2 or 3 out of that, but at least you've got networks that you much need. Oh, okay. So now there's executives. There's executives that they feel like they're stuck in their posts. They feel like they're not meeting new people for some reason known by them. It can be long hours of work. It can be demanding jobs, and they want to break into other industries. And it seems as if the marketplace is just retaining you on the last industry you were in. How do they break that glass ceiling of just meeting new people? I mean, these executives are already sitting in professional bodies. Some are chartered accountants, some are professional accountants, some are engineers, but the next move is so impossible. It seems as if you must know someone there, but you're just knowing someone in your level who doesn't want you to even get there. How do you use your networks to advance your career and go to new frontiers as an executive?
I'll tell you something that I've learned for myself.
Yes.
Is people in general, they love to help, right? But if you don't make them know that you have a need,
Okay.
then how do they then help you? I can count a number of times where I've reached out to you and said, Pet,
Yes.
this is what I'm considering. What would you recommend?
Okay.
Right? I mean, let's be honest. I have your number. I on every platform. And
Yes.
as much as I have you, if I didn't reach out to you, how would you have known that this is what was happening? Right?
Okay.
That is number one. And number two, I want to quote Robert Kiyosaki. So as much as Robert is normally used for someone who now considering to go into business and all of that, but in our careers, we can actually steal from what he says. So he says, as much as you're going to be giving your employer that 8 or 10 hours of your time, you ought to think about yourself.
Thank you.
You ought to think about yourself. You mentioned how I was in my previous life, I was an executive. I always say that I could have stayed in that position for the rest of my life and I would have been covered in life. But truth is, as people, growth is just part of who we are, right? And you know when it is time for growth. So what do you do? Do you then keep minding the employer that, but my employer needs me here? What about you? So when that time comes, it is then time for you to reach out to your immediate network if you already have networks. If you don't, then go out and have more networks. I'll tell you something that I intentionally do, specifically in the social spaces. So every year I sit and I see who is there in my friends list, right? So it's good. No, I'm serious. I do that. So I don't unfriend anyone, but I then become intentional in terms of, Akhona, this is the focus for you this year. So you're going to see in your friends list who's going to serve this focus, who's going to speak to this focus. And those are the people I am then going to tell my social media platforms to highlight. I will say this year, my intention is to know more what is happening in the academic space. And I know Pet is in that space. So highlight Pet. Whenever she posts something, let me know about that.
Oh, right? That's nice.
And not only that, I become intentional in following you, right? You post something I like, and I comment. Then the next thing, I'm in your DM.
Okay.
Right? We ought to be intentional about this. It's not when it comes to business, it's to reaching out for opportunities. We right, but put the humbleness a bit aside for now. I will bring humbleness back again as we continue.
Okay. So there's a co-host I have. It's Zolisile. Zolisile, do you have any questions? Zoli, are you still there?
Oh, yes, I am. No questions for now. I'm just really busy with my notepad and just jotting down a lot of
Judging that the line. Okay.
information. I'm just really sussing out from
Okay.
so yeah.
Okay, thank you, Zolsile. So, guys, for all our guests, if you've got a question, please raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak. So please let us engage. Don't feel like it's my own party and I'm eating the cake alone. Please raise, if you're shy of speaking, please type the question. Zolisile will read it out and then Akhona can address it. So I'm working in a space where I'm with university students, and they are still in their first year. Some they're in their honors year, and they're saying, I've been looking for employment, but nothing is coming to my table. What are the practical steps in this artificial intelligence age, in this fourth industrial revolution age? What is it that they have on their disposal where they can make deliberate connections?
Thank you for that question. I'm going to mention, yesterday on LinkedIn I received and a message. I hope it's called a message. That, you know, we're always trying to keep up with these platforms, what they are for, and all of that.
Yes.
I'll tell you. So I received quite a few of these, maybe by virtue of what I do and the fact that I run an accounting practice. So I always receive CVs, but something stood out about this one in particular. So what she's saying is number one, you could see that she put in the work.
Okay.
Right? So she put in the work. She wasn't going to say, hey, Sisi, hi, Sisi. Usually that is what I receive. Good afternoon, ma'am. So she put in the work in terms of who she is first. So even before she said, this is what I can offer, she told me about herself. So when it comes to networking, if you cannot stand and say, this is who I am as a person, when it comes to my skills, when it comes to, you bring a bit of hobbies as well. I mean, we want to know a little bit about you. What do you do when you are not studying? Right? Are you serving in a particular organization? Do you love books and all of that? So this lady sends me a message to say, this is who I am, and this is what I would love to bring into the table. So specifically when it comes to social media platforms, we all have access to them. And imagine how many other people are reaching out to this person. So you better make sure that yours stand out. Right? And how it stands out is you become genuine. Be genuine in sending that message. Don't just have a copy and paste. I remember back in the day, we had a covering letter that you would have for 3 years. And whenever you are applying, you just send that letter. Even if it no longer
change the date.
Right?
Change the date.
And click send. You cannot afford. So be intentional. You've seen that we also have advertised for a post. You want this post. What is it that is going to draw my attention towards you for me to give you that interview?
Okay, so this is actually very interesting that someone reached out to you in LinkedIn. I remember when I wanted to career transition, I sent an email to Sizwe and I said, I need a job in your school. I didn't care if they advertised the post or what. All I knew is that I'm tired of being an accountant. I need to be a teacher, and you've got a school. And bra, we're in the accounting network. So please, just get me to your school. And there were posts I didn't even know about that. It's like, oh, okay. And every time people they were asking me at the school, how did you come in? It's like, I emailed Sizwe. It's like, it's not rocket science. We were a colleague in the previous life. So hook me up on my next life and all. So it's very interesting that someone reached to you via LinkedIn, because many young people, they don't understand the power LinkedIn on the next network you should tap into. They're not aware, because LinkedIn is not your WhatsApp. WhatsApp, it's your family, your friends, the church members, the people you went with in high school. Can you just elaborate more the power that LinkedIn carries for people to connect?
So that is where the professional space now exists at, right? So if for instance you're looking for a business service, if you're looking for someone, I'll tell you what I do these days when I meet people. If I meet you and maybe we're in the queue in a shop and we connect for whatever reasons, before we leave, I'll say, are you on LinkedIn? right? It's no longer a matter of, no, absolutely. I met a lady in a flight this weekend, and while she was busy taking my numbers, I said, give me your LinkedIn profile, right? Let me follow you. Let me see, who are you?
What do you
right?
do?
What are you what are you about? So it's really a matter of saying, because people share themselves. That's a fact. You're not going to be sharing something just because it's everyone is sharing it. Whatever you share there, it represents you. So let me follow you there and see if I see that whatever you share, it connects to me, then maybe I'll ask for those numbers.
Okay. So Dee has a question. Can you read it, Zolisile?
Sure. She says, besides the social interactions, how can I approach? And I think I resonate with her question too.
Okay.
Do you want to tackle that or I tackle that? I think you, and I was going to throw it to you. So the question is, besides the social interaction, how can I approach? We already partly mentioned this, that become part of professional platforms, right? I know that, for instance, if you are in my space, the accounting space, now and then SAICA is going to be hosting an event, and you show up there, you ask yourself, why is everyone not here? So the people that are there too often are the people who already know how SAICA works and all of that. The people that are hungry to get into the space are not there. So you have to show up. Right? It goes back to the title of that book, You Don't Eat Alone. So show up in such any meaningful connection. But more than anything, you're now learning how to do this right. The next time you show up, someone who actually showed up in another event, you were there, you meet together and you're like, oh, I remember you in an event that happened at this place. And before you know it, you've connected, you're out for coffee, and the rest is history.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. And specifically when it comes to networking, I think the mistake that we make, Pat, is the fact that we always want to reach out when it is time for the need, right?
So we don't build a reserve of contacts. We're not out there to gather a database. When there is a need now then we start panicking and developing a database. It doesn't work that way. There's a process.
And by the time if you approach me at that point, then you're going to be a marketer, because now you're coming to me and you're saying, Akhona, this is what I want. And remember, no one loves marketers, right? No one wants someone who approaches them because they want something out of them. So build those relationships long before you need them. That is the time to build them.
Okay.
I'm actually surprised no one have asked for my LinkedIn profile already in the chat message. That one was a joke.
Okay, I got it. At least I represented the masses. Guys, please ask questions. Raise your hand. If you're not comfortable raising your hand, please type on the chat box. Olisile is going to read the question. There's the rejection part that not everyone you'll reach out to is going to want to have to be part of your network. They're just not going to want to connect with you. Some people, they'll do it and it hurts. It hurts your ego. They can do it deliberately or not deliberately, but it just hurts. So how do people bounce back? Because you can't be dumped by one person and then give out on the whole networking process. I don't know how many times I've reached out to LinkedIn to many interesting people who I thought they were actually accessible, and you find out no, it's a facade. They're not accessible, and even when they read, they just blue tick you, and you're like, "Aye, guys." I remember I sent a WhatsApp to a friend of mine. I said, I feel like ngiyashela because I'm just giving you this proposition and it's for the good of the masses and you are just not coming to the party. And I said to my friend, he's a guy, I was like, you guys, you go through so much pain. Nah, if you dump me once, I would never ask a girl again. But how do you bounce back? Because you need to network with people to grow, whether it's career-wise, whether it's business, you need to connect with people. How do you overcome that fatigue of being dumped or people just not wanting to connect with you?
I'm going to give you an obvious response here, Pat, but maybe because I am not finding another response that I should give to you. So you have to be resilient. I've recently been appointed to a board, and I won't mention for what organization because it is still to be publicized.
Yes.
But this lady, who is the founder of the organization, I initially reached out to her in 2018, right?
Lord.
Reached out to her in 2018, told her this is who I am and how I'd love to have a coffee session with her. Blue tick, right? Blue tick at that time. But me being, I'm like, okay, WhatsApp didn't work. Let's see what happens if I follow her in. So I go to the social platforms, and just like I said, because I was intentional on actually getting to work with her. So I put her then the social platforms, see her first, right? And I became intentional to such an extent that I had a meeting with her in January, and what she said is, Akhona, why is it that every time I post something, you're the first one to like and almost to comment, right? So my point here is, if you want something and you want it for the right reasons, eventually it's going to come to you.
Okay.
Right? I mean, just like I said, that we last week we were appointed in board, and I'm going to be serving in her board of directors, and it took me 5 years
to pursue.
5 years. Can I just respond to DJ there in the chats? She's saying I tried searching you on Instagram before the meeting. I think she searched me on a very wrong profile for me, and not on Insta. The last time I logged into Insta was probably 4 or 5 years. So whoever Akhona is there, I can tell you that is not who I am now. Yeah, I'm not so, there's so many platforms. We can't be in all of the platforms. I'm very active on Facebook. I'm currently on sabbatical there now, but I'm active on Facebook. I try my best with LinkedIn as well, and I'm using try my best because it is not a very, it's not one of those platforms that you'll come in and you know exactly how it works. So you need to take time in order to learn how it works and follow the right people and get them to follow you and all of that. But and I am on Twitter mostly as a follower because it's a very brutal platform. We all know that. So yeah.
I'm not on Twitter for obvious reasons. I'm not. So I know during our university times, they used to say, if you don't get a degree from university, at least get a husband or a wife. And I think we undermined the networking that happens at a university space, be it a college, because all of you are young, you've got time to mingle, you've got time to meet. The time you're working, you are burying people that is necessary for you to bury. You are marrying people that are necessary for you to marry. And chances are, maybe you're not going to even make it to the speakers that will be visible, that people can want to even know. You just the stats. And you come to think that, oh man, and the people you'll have relationships more of in your life is people you went to school with. Actually, they will become your friends, and they'll migrate from being friends, they'll become family. So as university students, how would you encourage them not to undermine the networking they have here? Because you might be first years in BCom accounting, but 5 years down the line, you're something different. 10 years down the line is something different. 15 years down the line is something different. And you want him to remember that, bruh, I used to sit next to you in the FA class. And be like, I don't know you. But you need those networks to work for you. People I went to university with, they are sitting in interesting places. Luckily, we were bonded through SCF. We still remember each other. I'm just thinking, if I was not part of the SF, maybe I would have not been known. I've gained weight, I'm shorter, I'm more talkative. Maybe they wouldn't even remember the girl I was then. So what is the importance of utilizing this space to the best of your advantage to create future networks?
No, absolutely. So you remember what we mentioned earlier, that the best time to build your connections, it is long before you need them.
Okay.
You already are in varsity. So plus minus, you can tell the direction of these people. You can tell that the people that you are spending time with, where they're going to be in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. So the best thing to do, and I so wish I can go back to varsity for this reason, because it's so easy that we actually get to, stick to our own cliques. We have 4 friends and you're good. You have 5 friends and you're good. And 10 years down the line, you enter into an office and you see, God, that lady, that is the office I need to. We went to school with. What was her name, right? What is it that I can say? And it's too late now. Remember?
Oh wow.
It's too late now. So the best thing that I can actually say to someone who's still in a tertiary institution is get to know people, right? Have the right kind of attitude. Yes, you have your own group, you have your own friends. We're not taking that away from you. But the other group, get to know them as well. And maybe the other, and people outside your own field, by the way. If you're in accounting, you need to get to know doctors, you need to get to know lawyers, because at the end of the day, these are the people you're going to be needing later in life.
Yes.
Right. So get to know them now, long before it's too late. Long before it's too late. It's very difficult to try and build this. We're not saying it's impossible. You can still build, but if you try and catch up at your 30s, at your 40s, too often people already have their own circles that they're part of, and you're coming in, you're saying I'm an accountant. They tell you we already know an accountant.
So it's really at a very difficult stage to penetrate people's lives when they're in their midlife. But now, as young people, you've got so much to deposit onto each other, even if it's not knowledge, just by being in the same space, having the same interests, attending the same class, sharing the same struggles, and you build a lifetime bond. So your becoming is already having a space before you even become that person. Oh, interesting. There's a question. Zoli, can you take over?
Oh yeah, she says, but for someone looking for a job, I'll have good intentions, but the employer might get silly ideas. So how do I tackle that?
I think okay, let me take this question, okay? It happens. I won't lie. It happens, especially if it's cross-gender. Some people get interesting ideas, but this is where you build boundaries. It's not going to be taken away from you because remember, you're at a vulnerable state. You need something from this person, and this person might use power to their advantage. You build resilience. You don't go on now swearing at people or accusing people of rape. You just tell them, I can see what you're trying. I'm not for that. I'm just here for professional reasons. If you are clear with those lines from the onset, people tend to respect that. I once worked in a hospitality industry where it was just the norm for staff to date because it was in an isolated area and people left wives at home. So it just felt women were just easy targets. They were just easy targets. And I went there. I just came out of a divorce. I was not looking to date anyone. I've never dated anyone at work. I don't look forward for that because it can get messy. But because the culture was there that as a woman, if you want to get ahead in terms of promotion and all that, you need to play the games. And I remember on the onset, when the manager made the move, I was like, I'm born again. I don't do these things. I'm divorced. I'm born again. I'm raising a child. I'm here for professional reasons. And because I had a stern face and I had a Toyota Tesla, I was not begging anyone for a lift after work. The boundaries were set very clear. So the moment you're entertaining it because you just want this thing, you're going to be the victim. They've got power over you. But the moment you're willing to lose everything for integrity and establish clear relationships, you will earn respect. And they will see you for what you came for or for what you are looking for, not what you can offer in between the lines.
Absolutely. No, I wouldn't respond to that question any better, Pat. So more than anything, just when basically wherever you go, you have to bring you. you now being the values that you hold to.
Thank you. Thank you.
You don't leave those behind.
Okay. Okay. So the values, you don't leave them behind. And it's very, I thank you for touching that, because when we're at work, we tend to forget who we are, or when we're still looking for employment or business connections, we tend to forget that, hey, I'm Zalwane. You like, I'll be Mzalwane Sunday.
Yeah.
Because the pressure is there. You're so desperate to make this new connection, leverage on this and grow. But after a year, is that sustainable? The demands, are going to meet them. After 2 years, do you want people to know you as this lady or as this guy that is willing to do anything to get ahead? Or do you want them to see you as this guy that has integrity? You wouldn't be sitting at a board, you wouldn't be recruited to be part of a board if you underrepresented yourself by compromising your values. Because they are looking for people who carry values. Many have qualifications, but do they have values? Do they have soft skills? Okay, so now there's this trend now that's out there, people being intentional when they're dating. Hey, it's no longer, hey, it's very interesting, guys. It's no longer the people you went to school with. People are very intentional, especially at 2000 and young professionals. They are very intentional about who they want to marry, which networks they want to get into. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe that's a game plan. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, yo, guys, I'm networking for business, for employment, now for a husband. Can you balance me in this one, because it's a trend. It's really a trend.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll respond to this one by giving a response that was given by Maya Angelou when she was asked a question. So someone asked her, Maya, do you think that people should marry for love or for money? Right? In her response, she says, in my opinion, Maya,
Yes.
in the Maya voice, she says, get around rich people and find someone you will marry for love.
Okay, just get.
Did you get that? Right?
Okay.
So get. You first you tick the circle box, and now that you're inside that, then now you can bring the. That's a fact. That's a fact. School fees have gone up. Everything has gone up. Everything, bonds are going up. So yeah.
Okay, I was never ready for that one. So I must change my networks. I must first get the rich one, the rich network, and then I must apply the soft skill now of love. And then this says, in this era, we say married to secure the bag. Guys, these networks are going to kill us one day. Yeah. So now the smile is no longer enough. The height is no longer enough. The beauty is no longer enough. Because I'm imagining if we're doing this to guys, they're doing it back to us.
Absolutely. My nephew, he's 23 now. He recently got married. I know he did it early, but he told Miss Great that so unfortunately, this is how it's done, and maybe our generation should have learned to do that earlier. But we were the ones who brought just the heart to the table, unfortunately.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I remember when you wanted the brief, I was like, just be natural. ZM has a question. Can you feel free? Go ahead, ZM.
Yeah, it's me. Well, one question I have. So I like how you guys touched on the importance of connecting, especially at the university level. So I'm from UJ, and I remember UJ used to have like career fairs. The semester you find international universities coming, you find also South African corporations. Basically offering students a chance to interact with them and socialize with them. You'll just go there for the free pens, the free T-shirts, and the free squeeze bottles. And then we go, At some point, I was also part of the ABASA, Advancement of Black Accountants in Southern Africa. That was a society that called these like people who have climbed the corporate ladder, who are doing well in accounting, they'll talk to us. Then after the event was done, they'll say, now it's your time for you guys to interact, network with people. I never did that because firstly, I did
You
not
got
like
the
it.
pen, you got the school bag.
Yes,
Anyway.
exactly. But besides that, I did not like that because automatically I don't know whether was I feeling a bit vulnerable or was I feeling that it was certain people's, it was just for a certain group, those A students approaching, and sometimes you find friends attending these nice good events hosted by Psycha and all of that. So now, since time has passed me by, I'm no longer a student now. I'd love to know, how do you now get to go to those spaces whereby a Akhona Sankqela would be there with friends or pets and they'll be interacting with kids,
Yes.
students, professionals? Because I feel like now, after this, as I'm busy noting down things you said when you started, um, meaningful connections, that's what you're talking when you're talking about what's this networking. You said it's meaningful connections for you other than the process of interacting with others, which is the dictionary version. How do I now get to go to these spaces, try to take up space like Josephine said, and cement myself? How do I get to rub shoulders with you and also cultivate, or nurture good things within me, as to maybe me wanting to be a professional, me following what Robert Kiyosaki said, that out of the 8 hours that I'm giving my employer, how do I now see myself as Zolisile, as an entrepreneur, and all of that. So basically, my question is based on the how. How do I get there? How do I, the both of you, and even maybe some other participants can also answer that as to where do we only just see pictures of you guys in good, nice looking events with beautiful gowns and luscious dinners, but we really never, and you're holding mics and the photography is beautiful, but how do we get there, honestly? I'd just love to know that.
Okay.
Pat, let me respond, and I'm actually going to respond by giving my how. This is how, and I do this because but I think you guys may have picked up. I'm very introverted, right? Now, for introverts in general, when it comes to going to social spaces, it is not something we master so well, mostly because of energy and all of that. So when I know that I'm going to be going into those spaces, first of all, you show up genuine, right? You're not going to pretend you are someone you are not. And when you are there, the intention should not be to meet and greet each of the 20 people that are in the room, right? If you go there and connect to the one person that is sitting next to you, then you're done. You go home, next event, you go and do just that. And for me in particular, how I connect, it is not a matter of what do you do? Oh yeah, she's a lecturer, and that's okay. I connect with you long before I connect with what you do, where do you work, and all of that. I'll tell you something that happened last week. I had a meeting with my banker. She comes into my office. I know why she's here. She's here because she wants access to my clients, right? It was an entire hour meeting, but the reason I actually gave her what she wanted is because in the hour session, 55 minutes of that session was spent getting to know each other. She tells me she's just moved from Joburg. She's in PE, and we talk about the traffic, the differences in traffic and all of that. And by the time we got to 5-2, the end of our meeting, I was like, Lebu, I know why you're here. and this is how I'm going to help you. You see, because first we connected as people, we connected meaningfully. It wasn't a matter of, oh, hi, Akhona, here's my card, and all of that. So unless you're very extroverted and you can manage to meet all 20 people, when you connect, better bring Zolisile in. What is it that defines you? Are you a father? Before you got to the meeting, did you have to drop your child at daycare? How was the traffic, and all of that? And before you know it, you have a connection, and there it goes.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really amazing. I think all the meaningful connections I made with people, they were not really on what they did. It was really on who they were. Be it spiritual, like we're talking about Jesus forever, or be it about a certain perspective we have. It can be a certain perspective we have. I'm very bad in politics, so I always support whoever is in power. So I'll even bring that misinformation on the table, and we're gonna be laughing because you good in politics, I'm so bad in politics, and you are already seeing a comedy out of this. And by the end of the conversation, our guard is down. Or maybe I'll connect with you because you're a mother and my daughter has done interesting things, and I'll share them, and then you'll tell me. I never really meet people on who they are. That's why I find it very easy to say, oh, you want a resource number? I'll give you that number.
Yeah.
I know them personally. I don't know the marketed brand you are in love with. I just know them personally. When you get goosebumps, I don't get goosebumps because I know the other part that's not marketed. That's the one I connect to. But if you're in love with the one that's branded, cool. I'm there for you. Retabile has a question. Can you share, Zali?
Retabile says, from your LinkedIn account, I can see that you were once a finance director 4 years ago. How is it like holding such a big responsibility being a woman in an industry that is male dominated?
Okay. And I want to blame you for this one, Pat, because you're the one that mentioned all the
I
stuff.
sold you out, bro.
Okay. Retabile, I'll tell you, and I was very young when I came into that position. Actually, I was 26. Yeah,
Yes,
I was
very young.
26. So for me, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I did it all by myself. Yay! I had a very supportive environment, right? At the board level, there were 4 of us. 2 were male and the other 2 were ladies. And I must be honest that I received more support from the gentlemen than I did from my fellow. Unfortunately, it happens. So did I experience hostility? No, I didn't. They were very accommodative and supportive. And I want to believe that this is still the case. It may not be the case all across board. Let's be honest. But you mentioned, Pat, how you were referred by Sizwe to your position. So you still get genuine people that are going to give you good referrals, that are going to stand by you when you're making mistakes. Because I'm 26, I'm coming into this. I've never done this before. So I do need people that are going to say, okay, that report is not exactly what we had expected, but I'm gonna go and do it again. Right.
Okay.
So more than anything, if you can, the spaces that you're going to go into, I wish for you that they be supportive, because if they aren't, you struggle to stay in non-supportive environments. I mean, I want to quote Prof, we know what just happened to this thing, and I mean it's yeah, it's an open secret. So that can be my response, Retabile. If you pray that you come into supportive spaces,
then it will work out. And please, guys, if you've got questions, raise your hand and we'll just allow you, or you can type if you feel comfortable by not being exposed. You're talking about the gender thing whilst we're waiting for the questions, and then we close. You were talking about the gender thing, and it's very interesting that, I don't know why we can't help each other as women. I just don't know where we get this threat of the other woman. And I know with men also, I found it very interesting that when you're wanting to to make Akhona your mentor, she's neither here nor there. Or when you want, as a guy, Tepo, you want to make Vusi your mentor, he's neither here nor there. And I actually validated with something so interesting. I know nothing about cars. So if my car breaks, I don't even know what a wheel spanner does. I need a guy to help me with that. So, but I've noticed that if ever I've got a problem with a car, I always get males offering to assist me. My brother had the same problem with a direction in 4 ways. Asking for directions in a garage, people were just not responsive. They were not helping him find his way to this mall where my daughter had a party at. But we got lost with the very same brother in Midrand. And I stopped at the garage and I asked for directions. They were so willing to go next to the road and tell me you turn against it. And I looked at it like, and my brother's like, if it was me, they were not going to help. Where do we get this gender bias? Because it's limiting our networks. Sometimes I just want to network with you as a female because you've been emotionally vulnerable in this space as a director. And I need someone who will understand when I'm crying. Whereas if I'm telling Uzolisi, they'll be like, just be strong, toughen up. It's good. And I don't want to be tough. I need a woman perspective. I just want to cry and let it all out. So, but now there's no gender support, similar gender support in the space. What must happen around that? Or how do you prepare mentally for that? Or how do you foster relationships in the same gender? I think, am I the one who doesn't have the network, or it's you? Can others hear me? Oh, okay. So the others can hear me. I think it's Akhona who's just lost the connection. Can we just wait a bit? Okay, I think Akhona just lost the connection. Can we just wait for her to reconnect? Please don't go, guys. She's gonna reconnect soon. Maybe let me call her. I'll just put her on speaker, hoping she answers. I think it's the network. Hi, Mpesa. Yes, I'll just put you on speaker. Okay, so can you just try? So she's trying to connect. It's the Wi-Fi challenges. Can we give her just a minute? Okay, then. No problem.
into that while I'm trying to connect on the other side.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I think we were just talking about the genders not helping each other.
And especially because the book explores on the lives of a certain, of a number of...
Can you just hold? I need to check if everyone can hear. Can you all hear Akhona? Can you hear her clearly from my phone? Oh, yes, D has confirmed. Okay.
Explore the city to say this is the reason that is right. So unfortunately, it is something that still happens to this day. And once someone has made up their mind that you are in their space and you shouldn't be here, they were okay when they were alone. There isn't much you can do to change that. So on your side, really, it is for you to try and work with people that are with you, because otherwise you're going to end up spending more energy trying to get that person to understand that you aren't their enemy. You're here to partner with them and work well with them. So the best is try and work with people that are ready to work with you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Someone has a question, says, give me a timeline on how long it took you from when you started in your career and where you are now.
My LinkedIn profile does give the timeline, and while someone else may actually highlight me as one of those who've been lucky and they're paid, everything happened for them. And I'm going to tell them that yes, maybe there was luck in it. For me, even though I would call it the intervention of God above, but more than anything, it never ever found me not ready. Right?
Okay.
So I did my part.
Okay.
I did my part. The company where I ended up serving as a director, when I was still an article clerk, I remember moments where I go over and above what my responsibilities for being an article would require me. If for instance, they required a document and I knew how important that document was to their business, I would wake up at 5, be at the office 5 a.m., be at the office 8 p.m. at night, not because I was going to get paid, but because I understood that when you serve, when you offer more, too often it comes back to you.
Okay.
So it was easy for them to give me the position because they've already seen me giving it to them long before I knew they could even consider me. So when it comes to networking, more than anything, be generous.
Okay.
Right? Give for no reason. Not because you're expecting something back, because you don't know who's watching.
You don't know who is watching. I guess it has answered you, Fifi. And then Joshua says, how can you deal with corruption when working or being approached by powerful people?
When the good people do nothing.
Okay. 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 Okay.
I know you say it comes to put them. We have to be ready to do good and pay the price. Everything has a price. Corruption has a price and doing good has a price. So we have to be ready.
Okay. So CJ has a question. CJ, can you share a question? CJ? CJ? Oh, I think CJ is typing. Let's just wait. Okay. It's still here. Let's just wait for CJ's question. It will be the last one. Oh, CJ says no, thanks. It's fine. I think then you've answered the question. Anyone who has a question before we wrap up? Are we all cool? Can I wrap up? Okay, seems as if no one has a question. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sibamba ngazo zozibini. Sibamba ngazo zozibini. You have impacted lives. You have changed the perspective of the young and the old. May the Lord continue to increase you, to make you grow, and may you sit in 100 more influential global international boards. We speak that. And we owe you $1 million for imparting this knowledge. As for following people deliberately, Shem, I'm coming for people. And as for dating in rich circles, Lord have mercy. Thank you. Guys, have a good night. Thank you, Ak. Thank you for coming through. Thank you to our guests who came, guys. Thank you so much for participating, the questions. Thank you to my co-host, Solisila. You've been amazing. You've been phenomenal. All those who've honored our invite, my students, people who know me from all different walks of life, people who are called by the students, people who have been doing business with me. All us, guys, thank you so much. Siyabonga. Good night.
Thank you. Night, night.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.